In brief, the story is that the Greek Christian Church inside the Ottoman Empire used to exist many years, hundreds of years. With the British Empire and then the Zionist state, they tried to renegotiate their position with the British Empire and the Zionist state. So they own property. Till today, they own more than 30% of the property of the area around Jerusalem. It's very funny that they rent Knesset building. Knesset building is the ownership of the Greek church,
Wow.
which is quite impressive. So the Zionist state pays them for having the building. And other important buildings, if you search for it, you can find information.
Welcome back to Free Palestine TV. I'm your host, Laith Marouf, and we are still in Athens, in the Efstathiou neighborhood. Today, we have a special guest with us, Giannis Efstathiou, you're still not teaching, but you are a doctor of sociology, and you are specialized in the relationship of the Greek state with the population here. We've been doing research about the relationship of Zionism with the Greek state, and we're gonna hear a lot of information that our audience are looking for to understand this historical relationship between Greece and Zionism. Giannis, we are heading right now to an important religious site. As we're walking here, before we get to that, let's give our audience a brief background about this relationship between the modern Greek state and Zionism. Tell us one of those points where this relationship starts.
Sure. According to Joseph Massad, the Greek modern revolution was the first Islamophobic revolution in the area. So the whole narrative was Greek Western Christianity against the Ottoman Empire and the Muslims. So the foundation itself of the Greek modern state is based on this. On top of that, there was an ethnic cleansing, the first years of existence of the Greek state, of almost 10% of the total population who have been Muslims. So back then, this was the foundation, but if we continue in the narrative about this history, at the end of the 19th century, when there was the second Greek-Turkish war, again, the Greek state forwarded this narrative of Greek Christianity against Muslims, and they even attacked some Jews that they were not westernized yet. They wanted the Jews not to be in favor of the Ottoman Empire or having good relations with Muslims. They wanted, the Jews to be Christianized, to be whitened.
It's almost like the attempt to make Greeks into whiteness.
Exactly.
Which, used to be called Hellenic people, and there was kind of a nationalization of that identity and almost a fabrication of it to call them Greek, and to include it in this longer history of whiteness that is fabricated to try to connect it to that whiteness, bringing Greece and or Hellenic civilization and Roman civilization as if they are the beginnings of this whiteness.
Exactly. In brief, Greeks had relations with Arabs, with African people, with Muslim people, and they wanted to uproot all this, heritage, all this cultural interchange, and to impose a new identity, this white Western Christian, in order the Greek state to be an ally of the Western states. So this is the base of the whole thing that we are speaking about, forming a state strategy against internal enemies, working classes, peasants, minorities, Muslims, Arabs, etc., and towards the outside, to project power, to resolve the so-called the Eastern question. So the Greek state fostered this strategy, and then we will see this collaboration with Zionism, which is very important.
So this beginning of collaboration with the first kind of dictatorial control of Greece, tell us a little bit more about that.
Yes, sure. we could start this narrative from Balfour Declaration. Even some months before Balfour Declaration, the Minister of External Affairs of Greece, Nikos Politis, had made a similar declaration, April 1917, even 4 months before Balfour, in collaboration with the British Empire. So Nikos Politis, the minister of Venizelos government, declared their commitment to the Zionist project. The Jews going to Palestine, occupying Palestine. Then we had Balfour Declaration, and some months after, 28th of February 1918, the Greek Parliament as a whole declared its commitment again to the Zionist project. Then, 1 year after, 10 and 11 of March 1919, we had in Thessaloniki the first Pan-Hellenic Zionist Congress, which was for them a great achievement, because they won the hegemony in the Jewish population. They started winning the hegemony, because till then the Jewish population was more socialist communist, oriented towards a revolution, oriented towards the common struggles of the working class. So one of their goals was to nationalize and colonize this Jewish working class, to make them pro-Western, pro-Zionist and pro-Greek state. So this Congress is a leap that we see this progress. But then there is more. During 1920s, there were physical fights between anti-Zionist communist Jews and Zionist Jews. The communist Jews tried, to block the Zionist progress in Greece. But they were backed up by the Greek state, which the Greek state, Venizelos government, who is considered to be liberal, best friend of George Lloyd, Balfour, played many cards, many games. He was at the same time Zionist, but also anti-Semitic, which is not new. We know
they go together.
They go together. But the main historiography in Greece, they cannot grasp this. They don't want to grasp, this, because of the propaganda. So Venizelos, at the same time, trying to solve the minorities question in Greece, he was pushing Zionism, but also an anti-Semitic organization called 3E, 3Es, in order, either to assimilate the Jews into a liberal framework, or to make them go to Palestine, or to attack them and force them to leave.
Yeah.
But their main goal, it was not just attacking the Jewish working class, it was attacking socialism, communism. It was attacking the relations between the non-Greek populations, oppressed people, with the working class. So this is why they forged this strategy. So during the 20s, you have these physical fights inside the Jewish community. Then you have an anti-Semitic attack against a Jewish working class neighborhood. But again, it was not just anti-Semitic, it was anti-communist, it was attacking the working class, it was attacking a socialist, let's say, kernel there. And then they established a framework that after Venizelos and some other governments, you have another great leap. You have the first fascist dictatorship in Greece, Metaxas. But what it is quite impressive, but it's not essentially, is that this fascist dictatorship was the most pro-Zionist and philo-Semitic government in the whole history of Greece. So this is something also that they don't say loudly. If you see the archives of the Ministry of External Affairs of Greece, they have published a book, but they stopped publishing regarding this period of time. They don't include
that period
of time. So some other historians from abroad, non-Greeks, highlighted how this fascist dictator was philo-Semitic and Zionist. While he was killing Greek and Jewish working class people, he declared his commitment to Zionism and the official Jewish community. And the official Jewish community celebrated openly and officially his governance while he was attacking all the other minorities. Slavic minorities, Roma minorities, Muslim minorities. He was building new military checkpoints in all the area of northern Greece. So the official Jewish community, not only the Zionists, are super complicit in the fascist Greek dictatorship, and they supported this dictator to destroy everything. Like everything was forbidden, strikes were forbidden, parties were forbidden, minorities were under attack. So why I'm saying this, it's not new that we have right-wing government, Zionist, philo-Semitic, you know, in a fetishist way. It's not new that we have military collaboration, because many people think that the Greek state was always pro-Palestinian, and it's only under New Democracy, for example, that you have this turn towards Zionism. No, 100 years ago, you had all these things. Balfour Declaration, embraced by the Greek parliament, Venizelos government, Metaxas government, and then you had the Nazi occupation, and it's very important to mention that all the Jews, 90%, I don't know, that were rescued against the Nazis, generally very few were rescued, were the ones that they supported the anti-Nazi, communist-led resistance.
It's important there to remind, obviously, the viewers that the Zionists, until the end of World War II, were a minority in the Jewish communities, and there was a tradition of fighting, not only in Greece, within the Jewish communities, they fighting the Zionists. We think about the Bund in the communist era, and what you said about how the Greek state dealt with the Jewish population, trying to get rid of them by Zionifying them. It happened also in the Arabic countries that were under, the occupation of the British. Like, we go inside here, or no? Or we go around.
Stairs. We go up the stairs or inside.
Let's go to the stairs.
Yes.
But as I was saying, in Iraq, in Morocco, the vassal leadership in those countries were paid by the British and the Zionists per head to expel Jewish Arabs, Arabic Jews from the country, to force them to become Zionists when they were lived thousands of years within their communities that they belonged to. They like here, they were, Greek, Jewish, they were still Greek.
Yes,
and they spoke Greek, and they ate the same food and played the same music. Arabic, Jewish, they ate the same food, they played the same music, and had the same culture. So this seems to be repeating. And finally, what you said there about the fact that the collaboration of these fascist governments, these vassal governments, goes back 100 years. We can think about how the vassal regimes in the Gulf and the Arabian Peninsula have always been collaborating with the Zionists from day one. It's not, some people get surprised when they see things happening like the Greek government right now or the governments in those Gulf countries. I'm sorry to cut you off. You were continuing your thought there.
Very important that you mention all this historical information. Sure. So if we continue, this narrative, after the Nazi occupation and the extermination of 90% of the Jewish population by the Nazis, with some Greek Christian collaborators, then you have the post-Civil War, post-war Greece. The Greek state was far right-wing, were the winners of the Civil War. After the Nazis they left, the British Empire with the far right-wing Greek state established a new order. In this situation, again, the official Jewish community and the Zionist community supported the far-right Greek state to repress the leftist, communist, anarchist people, including the Jews, and to force them to go to Israel. It's also very important to mention that one of the founders of the Greek working class union movement, Avram Ben Aroya, who is very well known in Greece, he became a Zionist. This is something that people don't know. While he started with anti-Zionism and not like organizing multilingual political flyers, organizing the units, etc., he became quite quickly a friend of Ben Gurion because Ben Gurion visited Thessaloniki and he did lectures during the Middle War period to
and
persuade.
Thessaloniki is where the biggest population of Jewish...
They used to call it Jerusalem of the Balkans. Like they wanted a model how to build the Zionist state. So they said, which is the biggest city of the biggest Jewish population? Thessaloniki. So we will go there, trying to have some roots there, to establish some basements there, and they tried to persuade the working class. They didn't succeed, but they managed to get some leaders, like Avram Ben Aroya. Avram Ben Aroya left the Communist Party, and then there is a story which is not well documented yet, because his archives are kept by Israel as far as I know. But it's sure that in the post-war period, his public texts are super Zionist. Like super Zionist, also supporting France against Algerian independence and stuff like that. And he's also represented today as a hero of the working class, you know. So, okay, what I want to say about the post-war period is related also to the Jerusalem, the Greek Christian Orthodox Church, the Patriarchate in Jerusalem.
We are sitting in front of this Orthodox Church that is obviously an important church here in the area. So we'll take a walk inside if they let us to film. But yes, continue on this thought that you were talking about.
Yes, in brief, the story is that the Greek Christian Church inside the Ottoman Empire used to exist many years, hundreds of years. With the British Empire and then the Zionist state, they tried to renegotiate their position with the British Empire and the Zionist state. So they own property. Till today, they own more than 30% of the property of the area around Jerusalem, West Bank, etc. They have property and they sell to settlers. Okay, so one of the topics of the negotiation was the Zionist state to make them sell more to the settlers while they want to keep the property. It's very funny that they rent Knesset building. Knesset building is the ownership of the Greek church, which is quite impressive. So the Zionist state pays them for having the building. And other important buildings, if you search for it, you can find information. But again, you have a Greek minority controlling a church of Christians in a population that the majority are Jordanians and Palestinians, the Christians. So this is a paradox, this is a historical institutional privilege that the Greek church has. So they use this privilege with the Zionist state to control the population. So they present themselves as mediators. The good guys, that they are not super Zionist, they are Christians, so they care about other populations there. But in a sense, they belong to the same bureaucratic control system there. So these ties still exist today. People don't know, but the Greek state and the Christian Zionist ideology is projected to the Middle East, to the Western Asia, as we should say, through this church. And we need to invest more energy and time to research the role of the church in the Greek society and there, because we don't really know. But yes, they own property, they collaborate with settlers, they give information to the Zionist state.
There is, of course, as you mentioned, the vast majority of Christian Palestinians are Orthodox. They're the biggest sect in Christianity in Palestine, and that's true for also Syria and Jordan, as you said. And we hear constantly about the Archbishop of Jerusalem and the Orthodox Church, Archbishop Hanna Atallah, who's criticized what the Orthodox Church has been doing, selling these lands or renting them to the Zionists, and they even punished him for speaking on behalf of his own people and on behalf of true Christianity, true Orthodoxy,
yes.
that is connected to the land, and the reason that majority of Palestinian Christians are Orthodox is because the crusades being done in the name of Catholicism and such. So how is it now, this relationship? Do we see any actual Orthodox communities in Greece trying to do something to change what the church is doing in their name in Jerusalem?
This is a very good question. Now the leader is Theophilos III of the Greek church there. I don't see this development because they have somehow a very efficient control of the Christian population inside Greece. They have sold the narrative that we can discuss later, why it's our interest to be allies with the Zionist state. I don't see, individually, I see many Christians supporting Palestine, but I don't see any collective, movement. It's very assimilated. The same goes with the Jewish community here. We don't see anti-Zionist Jews in Greece, like only some individuals. We don't see any collective, process. I know that also some Christians played a role to infiltrate the movement, to propagate Zionist ideas, even inside, the progressive movement.
Especially the anarchists, I think.
Yes, exactly, which is also something under research, how this happened, how this infiltration happened as a part of a whole control. So in brief, my response is no. Maybe this is something that we should work on, like organizing individuals into a more collective direction. But no, the hegemony in Greece of the Christian Zionist narrative is very strong. So pro-Palestine people are mostly politicized people or people, everyday life people that are not deeply connected with official Christian ideas in Greece.
So how about this idea of the infiltration that you mentioned and the narrative today, those two things? Let's take them one at a time. Let's talk about this infiltration a little bit deeper first.
Yes. Okay. Around 2014, there was a heightened attempt by state and other mechanisms to infiltrate the Greek movement, supporting, some collectives and some academics. So they intensified their attempt, and we saw many brochures, books, events supporting Zionism in a covered way, not in a very clear way. Especially they infiltrated anti-racist, self-organized structures. I participated in some of them, and we kicked out Zionists, like those 2 years. But it was very difficult, We made them leave somehow. But still we don't know exactly. This is a topic that it's underestimated in the movement. But yes, it belongs to the whole political control. At a bigger scale, see the Communist Party of Greece, which is the biggest in Europe, how they behave. For example, during the summer, they didn't support boycotting the ships, like the IDF soldiers that they are coming here for tourist reasons, they say.
The cruise ships that are going to Crete and other islands.
The Communist Party also, the leader, has declared in the parliament that Hamas is a terrorist organization. Or they collaborate, only with the Palestinian Authority. They have some base members in the islands, etc., but they are not super pro-Palestinian, I would say. So we should also add this mechanism as a mechanism of control. Apparently, they seem to be pro-Palestine, but they don't really are.
They're pro-Palestinians as victims,
Yes.
not as resistors.
Yes, sure. That's one aspect. So, yes, state propaganda, of course, is intensive. The main narrative is that it's the interest of the Greek people to collaborate with the Zionist state against Turkey.
The big monster that you gotta be scared of.
Yes.
Which is also another vassal of the West. It's like,
Yes,
you know.
yes. They overestimate on purpose the role of Turkey supporting Palestine, so they play this narrative. Then it's against the migrants, like we should collaborate with the Zionist state against the migrants, the Muslims, the migrant flows that are colonizing, as they say.
Islamizing Europe.
Yes, Islamizing Europe. So that's the second ideological pillar. And the third is, of course, which is more important, the material interests and privileges. You have the tourist sector, you have business relations. Just to name something very important, Energean company. It's a multinational Greek-led company that fuels 50% of the natural gas of the Zionist state, even during the genocide. And it has been attacked by Hezbollah twice. So we had never any demo against this Greek-led company. If you think about it, it's invisible somehow. Energean, of course, Intracom, the war industry that now Elbit Systems shares a big part of it. Intracom sells drones, weapons to Israel directly. And then you have, for example, Jumbo, which is like a market store that they are expanding during the genocide in the Zionist occupation lands. So they are going to build 15 new departments. They are like castles, if you see the photos. Commercial relations, super big, and of course military relations. One of the biggest military ally of Greece now is the Zionist state. So putting all this together, like material interests and privileges, political bureaucratic control from the Communist Party, according to my view, to more self-organized, anti-racist collectives, and ideological campaigns through the church, for example, or the media, you have these three pillars, let's say, material interests, political control, ideology, that they establish more and more structural relations. On the other hand, you have secret forms of repression. Just to name one great paradigm, the president of the Muslim Association of Greece, she has said that there is a secret police order for the people in the mosques, after praying, not to shout any slogan about Palestine. So there is this secret order, she said it publicly in an interview, that blocks the people of expressing themselves. And this is happening, in Athens. In Athens. And there is no reaction to it from our side, from our side. Or secretly, in parallel, they kick out Palestinian people from camps, from housing structures, they evict people, or of course they're profiling people, sweeping operations, all this stuff.
So basically they're banning the imams from doing their sermons that to have anything to do with Palestine.
Exactly.
Probably it's not only the secret order, probably the money from the Saudis and the Qataris that actually funds these mosques is also telling these imams that they are paid their salaries not to say anything about Palestine.
You are right. There is one pro-Saudi Arabia person that he has done an interview saying more or less what you are saying now. He gave an interview in a far-right platform of Greece. And I want to mention something also very important. After 7 October, one day or two, there was an insurgency in Samos refugee camp by Palestinian and other Arab-speaking people that they demonstrated supporting Palestinian resistance, and they were repressed, at least 7 arrests. So after that, there was another secret order that we know from NGO workers, that there was a special profiling of the Arab-speaking people going out, strolling, etc., around the refugee camps. There was no solidarity, for example, to these people in Samos camp that, they demonstrated because of the narrative about 7 October, demonizing it. I think it played a huge role, apart from making the refugees invisible in general, in the refugee camp system of Greece.
So this is clearly October 7th, al-Aqsa flood, the genocide in Gaza is now not only an issue of foreign affairs, the people in Greece not liking what their government is doing. Mm-hmm. It's becoming now a domestic issue where rights in Greece of the Greek citizens and people that are living in Greece are affected directly. And there's a funny story with your T-shirt here while you're coming to do this interview. Some kind of new police force that is policing people with images. Tell us about what happened with this T-shirt here.
Maybe this logo, because it comes from a collective Gather for Gaza. They are doing profiling already, checking people that maybe they wear this blouse. And as you said, you are very right. There is an ideology that there is an absolute separation between external affairs and Palestine far away and what is happening inside Greece here. And the pro-Palestinian movement has not done anything seriously to combine the struggles inside, the anti-racist, anti-colonial struggles inside Greece, with pro-Palestinian movements around the world. So the police knows this. And one of their key goals is to reproduce this separation, either through repression or through, as we said, political agents, political control, that they want to block this connection. Because in Greece, the political movement excludes the second generation migrants. It's not like some other countries. Here, the political groups, they haven't created a friendly framework for the second generation people or the refugees to participate in our structures. So there is no real basis, sentimentally, psychologically, politically, to the Palestinian solidarity. So it's more bureaucratic. I'm speaking now about the Greek left groups. People that they are working here, construction sector, at the ports, at delivery people. They are pro-Palestinian. We see them. When we do a demonstration at some multinational neighborhoods, they come with us. But we haven't created any stable political structure to learn from them and do politics together for Palestine. So there is this separation, and as you said, there are two threats right now. Okay, a global threat and a threat internalized against each Western nation state. And from our side, we haven't created this common politics.
One last thought here, because we, in another episode, we were talking to Evan about the relationship historical between the liberation movement in Greece and in Palestine. And you just mentioned how the left right now hasn't been able to reconnect in such drastic way as it was in the 60s and 70s, when the Greek communists and the Greek revolutionaries were training with the Palestinians, were fighting the same fight against imperialism. Is there hope to re-energize that relationship, and what could be done to actually speed up this re-energization in your mind?
Yes, for sure there is hope. Hope is a discipline, as some comrades said. Yes, we need to build a basis, going to the refugee camps, the detention centers, and to the neighborhoods, supporting the people with asylum and labor rights and stuff like that, creating this space, and then out of this, I see that we will see new groups, new politics. We cannot rely on the existing political bureaucratic mechanism, and we cannot see the past as something that we are going to repeat or copy. This is over, and we didn't block the genocide till now, and the Greek left might celebrate some actions, but our reflection should be that we didn't block it, so we are a failure, essentially. So we need a new attempt, as our political, comrades in the past created these networks and then they created revolutionary organizations. We are at the step 1 now, or 2. We are not at the step 3 or 4. So we know where the people live. We need to go there and create new kind of political discussions, organizations, starting from solidarity networks. If we do this, then I think our boycotting capacity, sabotaging capacity will increase, because we are going to be together with the people that they are deeply interested in real terms with the whole thing.
Dr. Giannis, thank you very much for giving us this historical lesson about Zionism and the creation of the Greek state and the current realities of the collaboration of the state and the Orthodox Church in the destruction of Palestinian peoplehood. I hope we can read your research when it's fully finalized, and I'm not sure where it's going to come out, but please send it to us. We will. I am sure a lot of people would love to get that deeper understanding, and I wish you the best of luck, and for the community here in Greece to escape this imperialism themselves, the same monster that is hurting all the nations around the world, not only Palestinians and Greeks. This is Laith Marouf on Free Palestine TV. Behind the camera is Rabih Ghannam. I ask you one more time to press the subscribe button on whatever social media platform you're watching this on, and to go to our website, freepalestine.video, to donate so we can continue bringing you this unique content. Until we see you next time, I bid you all a free Palestine and a free Greece.